Welcome, everyone, to something I've wanted to do forever, and I'm going to do it today. The first edition of the Dolphins Make Me Cry podcast. And what's really cool is today is actually not a day that we have to cry that much. We'll cry probably a week from now after Buffalo. But today, we are going to be optimistic Miami Dolphin fans. So, Steve Giordano, anybody who knows me, obviously you know that I am a diehard Miami Dolphin fan, and I want to thank the fact that I am in the amazing entrepreneurial insurance industry for the ability to take 15 minutes out of my crazy day and talk about the Miami Dolphins, a team that I have been a fan of since I am probably 7 years old, a team that has tormented me since I am 7 years old. And that's why we're calling this the Dolphins Make Me Cry. And I want to thank Mr. Darius Rucker from Hootie and the Blowfish, who I was honored to meet briefly yesterday at the stadium, for creating that song, creating that lyric that has lived on in our lifetimes as long as I can remember being a Dolphin fan. But today we are going to talk about the positive and some of the negative of what has been a wild ride of a season and a wild ride of being a Miami Dolphin fan. The one thing I can say about this franchise is that they are the type of franchise that they piss you off a lot. They do a lot of dumb crap, but we keep coming back because we're big Miami Dolphin fans, and we take it, and we pray that one day they will get their shit together, they will figure it out, and we can actually have a legit contender winning football team. So the season that was, right? It was an amazing season, starting 8-3. Unfortunately, Tua Tagovailoa, who I think we all can agree is the guy when healthy, and that's a big if. He, gets off to a phenomenal start. You do a great job in free agency for the most part. Tyreek Hill, obviously everything that went on with the trade there, Laramie Tunsil from years ago, and then you sign some guys who, unfortunately, in the long run, like a Teron Armstead, who I think is an amazing guy and an amazing talent and a guy who you want on your roster, but unfortunately, when you sign guys that are hurt, guess what? They're going to always be hurt, and I think that's the one lesson you can learn from this season. 8-3 to start things out. Tua was balling. You have a rookie head coach in Mike McDaniel, who I think the jury is out for. I think he will be a good coach. I think we need to let it ride with him, obviously, 3 to 4 years. But there are some things in being a rookie head coach that you need to look at and say, we got to have some better game day skills and game day management. But being that as it may, we had a good season up to week 11 being 8-3. And then, unfortunately, wheels fall off. A lot of injuries this season that they had to deal with. The Byron Jones mystery of how this guy just, gets a surgery and he's supposed to be back week 1 and then he's supposed to be back week 4 and then, lo and behold, he's in witness protection and never comes back. That really, no pun intended, hamstrung your defense, and you were not able to play the defense this year that Josh Boyer wanted to play. The defense they played last year, where it was a lot of blitzing and leaving Jones and Howard on the outside as cornerbacks to basically make it happen, you were not able to run that defense, and that was a snowball and a trickle down, and to me, the reason why you could not take yourself over the hump and be from a 9-8 team just sneaking into the playoffs to a team that legitimately could have contended to win the division and really contend with Buffalo and obviously, beating out New England. So the injuries, everybody has them. There's no excuses. They hurt this team big time, losing, Brandon Jones, losing Nick Needham, and then having some great stories like a Kader Kahu out of a Division II school, a corner who basically got thrown into the mix to be a corner for you the whole year. You had a lot of injuries on that defense, and then you go and make the big splash for Bradley Chubb, who's a great dude, by the way. I was able to talk to him the other night. You make that big splash for Bradley Chubb, and lo and behold, boom, Emmanuel Ogbah gets hurt, pretty much right when Chubb was coming in. So you dealt with a lot of adversity this year. And then obviously the whole Tua scenario where, hopefully this guy is going to be good long-term just for his health, right? Like, I think he's a good dude. He's a leader. He wants to win. He wants to do the right things. He's not a drama type of guy. And unfortunately, his body being a smaller body is just kind of getting ragdolled around. He gets his bell rung a couple times this year. He had, quote unquote, 2 concussions. You can make the argument he had 3. And now it's, where are we? And let's kind of go here. Not that I want to be all over the place, but it's a lot with this team and this franchise. You're going into this scenario, and we're going to look here. Yesterday, Jason Sanders in a brutal 6-6 game with the Jets. And Jason Sanders, who I believe was like 1 for 9 and 50-plus yard field goals, nails one yesterday to send the Dolphins to Buffalo next Sunday at 1 o'clock. Was 9-6 at the time, and then it turned into an 11-6 game after a wild safety at the end of the game that the betting world is up in arms about right now. But, you have this season, and you got yourself to the playoffs, right? You got a 9-8 season. You get yourself to the playoffs with the ability to play in Buffalo, and now the million-dollar question, will Tua play in Buffalo, or will this franchise sit him, let him rest, let his brain rest, and look at the long-term versus the short-term? And I'm torn on this. I think I'd lean here, right? You have had pathetic quarterback play since Dan Marino retired, right? Flat-out pathetic quarterback play. You had a couple of times there with Tannehill where he looked okay and you thought he might be the guy, and then you realize that he's Ryan Tannehill and he's not the guy, and he needs everything to be perfect around him for him to be any good. You've had 20 years plus of poor quarterback play, and you finally get a guy who literally led the league in passer rating this year, right? Had amazing numbers, amazing stats, and you put him in the right position, right? You got him a line, you got him weapons, and now the question is, can he hold up? So now he's hurt, and you don't know where we're going to go here for this Buffalo game, playoff game, first playoff game you've had in 6 years. You haven't won a playoff game in about 22 years, which is just ridiculous, if you ask me. But that's why we call this a Dolphins Make Me Cry podcast. So you have this scenario now, will Tua play or will he not? There's reports today, on Monday talking about he might give it a go. I don't know. In my heart of hearts, I'd say no. And in my heart of hearts is a piece of me that says, you know what? For the long-term future, it's probably better if he doesn't. And that'll hurt, because if you're going to go to Buffalo with Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson and Mike the Neck Lennon, good luck to you. It is going to be a brutal task to handle to try and deal with that team, which, in my opinion, Buffalo's winning the Super Bowl, right? As much as I hate to say it, and everything with DeMar Hamlin and, the emotion around that, and, God bless him that he's doing well. It's great to hear. He seems like a great dude, and, it's a freak, unfortunate thing. They're a team of destiny, and you're walking into a buzzsaw. Like, let's just call it what it is. Are you going to take the risk to bring Tua there? I don't know if it'll happen. Some of the reports today are kind of leaning a little bit more to it. I'm on the fence. If I had to go with my gut, I'd say don't do it. Give him the offseason. Get rested. Get well. Look at the long term, because the fact of the matter is quarterbacks do not grow on trees, and if you have one that has ability, we got to keep him healthy best that we can. But that being said, the Buffalo scenario is going to be absolutely brutal if you do not have Tua under center. It'll probably be brutal even if you have Tua under center, because again, they're a team of destiny, and they're a very good team. Now, that being said, 4 weeks ago in Buffalo on a Saturday night in the snow, you had an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter, right? You had that lead. You didn't put them away. You needed one good drive at the end, and you could have put them away. And you also beat them in, week 3 in Miami in a game, frankly, you had no business winning because they held the time of possession and they really pretty much kicked your ass, but you got pretty lucky towards the end. But that being said, even though you're walking into the buzzsaw, even though everything's going on around you right now with Buffalo, you have a division opponent and somebody that you beat once and you almost beat a second time. So that being said, my heart of hearts, I think this will turn into probably like a 35-10 Buffalo, and God, I hope I'm wrong, type of a scenario. But maybe the football gods shine down, give us a healthy Tua, give us a Tua that can play the whole game, and maybe you can, take something out of this game. But I will say this, one of the things that to me has disappointed me in this season, taking away the injuries and everything they've had to deal with, and Tua, and not having a quarterback, and having, your backup quarterback, and having him get a concussion, and, playing a third-string rookie, all of that being said, the talent on this team has not played up to the level of expectation, in my opinion, even with injury. Like the last 2 years, Flores gets fired, and, they have a, 2 9-win years, missed the playoffs, and you had a lot less talented roster than you have right now. So I think there is some disappointment there. The one thing I'd say, and we can talk about this at a later date from a futuristic perspective, is, you're going to have Greer here, who we can all question if he should be or not. I've been, torn. He's done some good, done some bad in the draft and free agency. McDaniel's going to be here, obviously. And frankly, they both need to be here because your roster and everything that you set up for this year is built for the future. Like, Sean Payton could come here next year, and he really can't do anything. You have no draft picks, and your cap is pretty much, mapped out, and you can restructure some guys, but the team's a team. They're not going to do that much. Should they go out and probably get a thumper middle linebacker? Hell yes, they need that for sure. Byron Jones is gone. You're going to have that money on the books that you can use. But for the most part, this team has set themselves up. You traded your first-round pick for Chubb. You signed him to a long-term deal. He's basically your first-round draft pick for next year. The team is built for next year. So it's going to be very interesting to me, the decision they make with Tua. Do they take the risk and say, hey, we're here, and we haven't been here in so long, or do they have some foresight and some down-the-road thinking of, hey, we're going to think more along the lines of the future. So, I know we're going through a lot here. I just wanted to hop on for a few minutes and kind of have a quick little podcast of the Dolphins. Next year I'd like to do this on the regular, week-to-week basis. I'd love to hear everybody's, comments, whether you think I should or not. My passion before getting into insurance has always been sports, and I've always wanted to do something in the sports broadcasting arena, radio or TV or what have you. So if anybody's out there listening and you'd like to throw something my way in addition to my crazy busy insurance life, I'd love to hear you. And obviously being down here in South Florida, love to have some former, Dolphins join me, some beat writers for the Dolphins join me, and, just basically, probably bitch and complain about the fact that this team hasn't won anything for 20 years. But I will say this, one day they are going to be a good team, and one day they're going to win a Super Bowl. And I know this, I don't care what it costs, I will be there. Because this has been, a labor of love and a passion, and basically, a swift kick, for many years of my life watching the Dolphins. So this has been fun, and we'll do it some more. So this week, playoff game, Dolphins in Buffalo. Again, I don't have any high hopes, but you never know. Any given Sunday, as they say. So we'll see what happens, and the best to Tua. Hope he comes back. Hope he's healthy. And look, let's beat Buffalo, man. So Dolphins Make Me Cry podcast, episode 1, the pilot. Heading on out, and we will see you soon. Take care.